Okay, dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm sure many of you have watched the previous video where I talked about what is going to happen in 7 Nights 2, and this is the follow-up after Advent Plus has been released. And previously from that video we had one hero that is still not released, and that is Kid Shane. So again, just to refresh your memory, she is a field expedition specialist, and she may come out when we have harder difficulty of field expedition, which only makes sense for her release. And I think that is going to happen really soon, which could be the next update, because technically we should have gotten the nightmare difficulty scenario when Advent Plus came out, but we didn't get it, and for the Korea server that actually happened in the same update. So I'm expecting that to drop really soon. It also gives you an additional chance to get more rubies from completing those harder difficulty scenarios, and with the nightmare difficulty being released, we also will be getting a higher difficulty of field expedition, which will be more catered for Kid Shane. And with Kid Shane, she's going to make your farming so much more efficient, especially now that we have scrolls added to field expedition. So you can only imagine how she can really help you in farming once that happens. But moving on, we of course have the most anticipated next L+ hero, and that is Ace. His skill set is incredibly stacked. As you can see, there are some ranges of damage percentages. These are all based on skill level 1 to skill level 15, just for you to have a clearer idea of how each of the skill will scale up as you increase his skill level, okay? So for his passive, he does increase accuracy rate of all allies from 6 to 20% at skill level 15. For his skill 1, he will deal AoE damage and also remove buffs. For his skill 2, he becomes invincible, similar to what we have from Advent Plus, and deal defense ignoring damage, which means it's going to hit super hard AoE damage as well, and he will also do additional damage to stun targets. And for his skill 3, which he tends to use first in all matches, he will charge towards the target, hold all enemies together in a straight line, and also has a 100% chance to reduce their defense and stun them as well. As you can see, everything is very tightly packed. He is an incredible hero, and you definitely want to prepare a very good set of attack speed for him. For his ultimate, he does heavy AoE damage and also has a 60% chance of knocking down the targets, and you cannot stop him from this because he becomes invincible when he activates his ultimate. So he's a very strong hero. I'm sure many of you have heard all the good things about him. He is going to be super good in PvP and also in a future mode called Labyrinth, which we will elaborate on later on in this video. Along with Ace, we do have Lina. Now she is an insanely good support unit, okay? She is definitely one of those heroes that you also want to have. For her passive, she increases all allies damage, scaling from 5% to 14.8%. For her skill 1, she recovers all allies HP based on her own max HP, and she increases attack speed and movement speed of all allies. Now this skill alone makes her usable in so many areas, in your scenario, in your field expedition, in your dungeons, okay, in your 8-man raids. Okay, Lina is just insanely good and has very high utility in the game. So I think she is someone you also want to save tickets for, okay? For her skill 2, she also recovers all allies HP, okay, for 10 seconds. It's a time-based healing, so that's also pretty interesting. Something we do not really have at the moment, apart from I think Ian's ultimate skill, and I think from Henry Plus as well. Okay, skill 3, she deals damage and also has a 100% chance to reduce the damage dealt from the enemy. So that is also good because she helps your team mitigate some damage while also allowing you to do more damage on the enemy. And finally, for her ultimate, she casts a shield equal to a certain percentage of her max HP, and she also links all allies. So very useful character. You definitely want to have her. I will elaborate more on her utility later on, and you'll see where she is used. Next up, we have Noho. She is a guild raid unit, okay, guild raid suppressor. But not only guild raid, you can use her as a range unit standalone. Okay, it's just that in guild raid, she really shines because she has a suppression skill for the Ruler of Thunder Dragon. She gives shock resistance and she increases her own combo chance, so she has a very unique situation whereby her skill set entirely does not have any damage. She only boosts her own output, okay? She will boost her own output, and from what I've read in the Korea patch notes, her ultimate skill gauge doesn't increase based on basic attacks. It only increases when she uses her skills, and it only increases when your allies give ultimate move gauge increase effects. Something similar to Shay. But I'm not too sure if that's going to be the final design for her, because sometimes when I look at videos, I do see her skill gauge still increasing. Okay, so if anyone who plays Korea server can enlighten us on this, that would be great. So Noho is a very strong DPS. She is mainly used, of course, in the Thunder Dragon, but even outside of the Thunder Dragon, you can use her in your dungeons. You can also use her in raids. It's just that if you use her in raids, you will be having less damage because her skills don't really do much damage, but her basic attacks probably will be doing quite a decent amount of damage. So of course she's not gonna be at the same level as Cosette in terms of damage dealing, but her ultimate can really hit very hard. And you do need a very dedicated team built around her in order for her potential to increase. So next up we have Adel. He is also supposed to be released before Advent Plus, but somehow he is just lost. I have no idea where he is coming out, but he has no impact on the story, so they could release him at any time, similar to how they did for Yuri. And he turns into a DPS in legendary form. Okay, so he's actually a very strong DPS in fact. So he deals additional damage to burn targets, and this additional damage, it starts off at 45% at skill level 1, and it scales 6% for each skill level. So at skill level 7, he will already have 87% more damage dealt to burn targets. So that is quite huge. Okay, and you can couple him with Rachel. I think his best friend is Rachel for sure, because Rachel burns, and you know, with him and Rachel you can run a double DPS comp, which is really good. For his skill 1, he becomes unstoppable and deals damage to all enemies in a semicircle, also has a chance to burn. For his skill 2, he deals damage, quite heavy damage to a single target, and has a 100% chance to burn. And for skill 3, he also charges at the target and does AoE damage and also has a chance to burn. For his ultimate, he deals huge damage, scaling from 700% all the way to a few thousand, and then also dealing additional damage for each burn debuff up to 5. So this additional damage also scales very heavily. As you can see, at skill level 1, it is 140% for one burn debuff. Okay, so at skill level 2, it will plus 48, and each skill level will increase this amount by 48%. That is huge. So just imagine this multiplier for each burn debuff multiplied by 5. So his ultimate has the potential to be a very hard-hitting ultimate. The only problem is whether he crits and whether his stats itself are actually good enough, okay, for him to be comparable to someone like Miss Velvet or Dylan's. And he does require, of course, a very dedicated team. Like, you definitely need Rachel to be used with him, otherwise he will not be popping off. So quite situational, but I can see the potential there, and you can also use him in Guild Raid if you do want to try someone new. You can also use him in Celestial Towers as well. So he's more mainly a PvE based unit because you don't really see burn units being used in PvP at all. So yes, he's gonna be adding on to that whole range of DPSs that we already have for PvE. And lastly, someone that is supposed to be released before Ace is also Legendary Shay. Okay, Legendary Shay was pretty much, to me, designed for the Catastrophe raid, which also hints that she could be coming out really soon for us as well, because she was released 2 weeks after Advent Plus. And if you look at her skill set, she recovers a lot of HP. For her passive, it's basically the same as Serena's, except that Serena's one is based off her own attack. Okay, but for Shay, she heals allies whenever she uses a skill based on her own HP, which means there is a very high chance that giving her HP gear is probably the way to go. Or skill up, or skill cooldown. Okay, either one, I think it's fine. It all works, right? It all works. For skill 1, she recovers all allies' HP based on a percentage of her own max HP and cleanses everyone, which is really good because in Catastrophe raid you do get debuffed. And even when Shay herself is disabled by maybe other statuses such as Shock, she is able to proc this skill as well, and she can cleanse off whatever debuffs that is casted on her. And for skill 2, she reduces the damage received by all allies and also increases allies' receive recovery rate. So if you think about it again, this is very useful in Catastrophe raid, because in Catastrophe raid you are getting ganged up by a lot of mobs, right? And you also want your heroes to be healing a lot. And I think this could affect Fine, maybe, I'm not too sure. But even if it doesn't affect Fine, it is still a very helpful skill to keep your entire team alive. So for skill 3, she does do AoE damage and also has a chance to blind. could be very useful in Catastrophe raid as well, to blind the mobs potentially, so that they will do less damage to you. And for ultimate skill, she is the second hero in the game to have revive. She will revive the nearest dead ally and increase the ally's status effect resistance against all status effects. Okay, so also pretty helpful. And one thing to note is that she did have a moment in the Korea PvP meta as well, alongside Alice and Jave. More of a tank team build with Karma as well, I believe. So it is only at that period of the meta where she actually could be used in the PvP meta. Otherwise, she was really not used at all and probably just used for the Catastrophe raid. So moving forward, we are going to talk about a few things. The first is T11 to T15 dungeons. Many people have been asking me, when is this actually going to come out? So the answer is, it came out after Ace and Lina for the Korea server. I'm not too sure if this is going to happen the same way, okay, but it may not come out that soon, because Ace and Lina is probably at least a month away from us, okay? We also have more Celestial Tower. I will give you guys some heads up of what to prepare, what units to use. And we also have more areas where our CP will grow. And then I'll talk about Labyrinth again, because it's still not out in global server after so long, and they are deliberately doing this because we won't be able to get moonstones and rubies and tickets, all these great rewards that comes from Labyrinth. And lastly, I want to let you guys know what are some of the upcoming videos that I have in mind regarding future Korea content, so that you guys can prepare beforehand for the global server. Okay, so dungeons. We'll start with the gold dungeon. Now, I was watching about 5 different YouTubers from Korea server, and most of them use the same team. Not same, but you know, it surrounds around these 8 units only. I have not seen anything beyond that. Okay, so for T15 gold dungeon, you will get 861,000 gold when you hit the S rank, and that is a lot of gold. Okay, that is a lot of gold. Mainly, it still surrounds the battery team. Shay is a must. I've never seen a team without the Shay. Okay, Serena is actually optional. Some people don't use Serena because they are using Lina. Lina is actually a much better Serena in that case, because she increases movement speed, attack speed, and she also heals. So that is why I say Lina is such a good hero to have, because later on you'll see more of her. Yeonhee for AoE damage, Luki for more movement speed as well. I think it does stack, I'm not too sure, so you can attack very fast with Luki and Lina. But some people may opt to use Rudy for more bulk, okay, and Velda as well. Velda has AoE skills, and he also helps to pull all the piranhas, because in the gold dungeon T15 you do get a new species of piranhas, and they are the red ones, and I assume they hit very hard. Okay, so there's gonna be many piranhas you need to kill, and you need a lot of speed, you need a lot of AoE damage. You can really clear it with any combination of these 8 heroes, okay, I guarantee. Moving on to the Soulstone dungeon at T15, you do get 60 red Soulstones a day and 40 blue ones. Now, the Soulstone dungeon really requires you to use range heroes in this case, because some of you may be thinking using Miss Velvet. I'm still not too sure if Miss Velvet can be used at this level. Okay, but so far I've not seen any Korean YouTuber use Miss Velvet at all. They all resorted to range heroes. The reason for this is because if you look at the start of the battle, he has this massive lava pool in front of him, which means you cannot get close. And only range heroes are able to shoot from behind that lava pool. Okay, so the range heroes of course recommended will be Cosette, Chris, Noho, Claire. I put Claire here because there really isn't any other good range hero that I think we have that is capable to do enough damage. Okay, if given a choice, I would have put Ruri, which is a future range DPS here. Ruri would be good. Luki Plus, I've seen some YouTubers use Luki Plus, Cosette, Lina and Shay. So Lina and Shay is a new phenomenal combo for all your PvE content. And of course, I don't have to talk about the damage dealers themselves. Cosette is crazy good. Chris is a debuffer here, and he also is able to do a lot of damage. If you want, you can run Chris and Noho. That also works. That's why I said that Noho can be used outside of the guild raid context. Then we have the Elixir dungeon. So for the Elixir dungeon, it kind of is the same thing, except that you'll be fighting different types of monsters. In this case, it is these ogres, okay, and they are definitely more challenging than the dragons or the gargoyles themselves. So these golems, they actually have wide charging moves, okay, they can dash across the entire field and cast very big AoEs. So if you don't kill them fast enough, this is something that you will end up seeing. You won't have much space to run and you'll be swamped by all the AoEs. You can use any kind of damage dealer, range or melee, it's all fine. I've seen certain combinations that run, Evan Plus, Cosette, Chris and Lina. I've also seen people run Chris, Cosette, Lina and Shay. So you can either go with 2 support heroes or 1 support hero and 3 damage dealers, and Chris or Rachel as a debuffer. That also works out fine. This case, of course, there are more people using Lina as the only support hero, as the must-have support hero because of her tankiness. And as we mentioned before, she does link, she does shield, she does recover, she does buff. She is definitely one of the more superior support heroes to have on the field. In fact, you can even use the same team, same units for the Rune Dungeon. Nothing is too different about the Rune Dungeon, except he does have these cute little purple rocks that will appear and wander around the entire field. So it won't be that stationary crystal anymore from what I've seen. I'm not too sure if because the YouTubers are killing it so fast that I missed it, or he's just not summoning them anymore. But yes, I've seen these little cute rocks wandering around the entire field. I'm not too sure if they actually have any healing abilities, but it is best you kill them fast, and they do die pretty fast, okay, from what I've seen. So yeah, you can use the same team for the Elixir Dungeon, for the Rune Dungeon as well. And if you see the rewards, it's actually 420 legendary runes, and this of course gives you a hint at what is to come later on. For the Experience Dungeon, you have to use melee heroes in this case, okay, opposite to the Soulstone Dungeon, similar to what we have already been doing. Same thing, the support heroes will not stray from Shay, Lina or Karin. You also have melee DPSs like Dylan's, Rachel, Miss Velvet, Evan Plus, Shane. As I mentioned before, if you have Adel, you can use him with Rachel as well, with Shay and Lina. So the reason why you cannot use range heroes in this case is because look at all these tornadoes that the Harpy has casted on the field. It is quite insane, okay, if you watch Korean YouTubers play, because it is just all over the field, and if you have a range hero that is a bit too far off, he or she may be struck very easily and die. So that's something you want to avoid totally. Not only that, remember when the Valkyrie actually slams down on you, now she will cast this star-shaped skill, so you don't really have much space to run. And with the tornadoes going on, you can only really try to avoid them in those very narrow pie-shaped empty areas. So yes, the difficulty of the Experience Dungeon has considerably went up, but you do get enhancement stones from it from T11 onwards. So at T15 you will get 2 legendary enhancement stones guaranteed. There is a chance of getting the special radiant enhancement stone as well. That's a pretty low chance, okay? So yes, I hope that helped talking about all the T15 dungeons that you need to start preparing for, and hopefully you have the units ready by then. Next up, we have Celestial Tower. So for floor 81 to 85, you will be meeting the 3 annoying sisters once again. So they will cast Bleed and Scott is needed. Karin is a staple for Celestial Tower for sure. You also run a debuffer, and you also have a few damage dealers to choose from. Now, when I was researching on this, many of them use this specific team of Chris and Miss Velvet. Now the thing is, I believe they all have a Rachel, and I believe all of them have an Evan Plus, I believe all of them have a Cosette ready, but they specifically used Miss Velvet and Chris. I don't know the exact reason for this, so maybe Korean players can also let us know why exactly many people use these two specifically. So that's the point I wanted to make, but for floor 86 to 90, I felt that maybe you can use Rachel, so I've tried to include her here. Okay, and the DPSs also range between these 6, and you also do need an AoE damage dealer, because for Steward Bai in floor 86 to 90, he does something similar to Bane in floor 76 to 80. He will summon many of those armored minions that you experience in chapter 11. So an AoE damage dealer is going to be very helpful here. He also has immortality, so if you want to run a buff remover, that would be great as well. For floor 91 to 95, you'll be facing Gambiro and one other guy, I think his brother. He has burn, so Gillahan is needed, and of course the same kind of setup. A healer, a debuffer, and a damage dealer. And for floor 96 to 100, we meet our best friend again, Tristan. So we are going to use 2 damage dealers here, and 1 debuffer and 1 Karin. Okay, that's basically all you need to prepare for, okay, and keep in mind before attempting these floors. So next thing is about the CP progression. As you have seen from the T15 dungeons, you will realize there were new red color materials. And these are the legendary elixirs, legendary runes, okay, which you will need to push your divinities and potentials beyond their maximum tier of what we have now. So for the divinities, we are going to have level 11 to 13. I'm not even sure about the percentage chance of increasing from level 10, because at level 10 is already 10% chance, and I think it's going to be even harder to get all of our divinity to level 11 to 13. There's also going to be page 3. Page 3 divinity is going to focus on status effect casting. For the potentials, currently our maximum is level 15. We are going to get level 16 to 20. And we will also be getting hero levels enhanced to level 56. Now for the Korea server, this actually came out together with the Advent Plus update. But bear in mind that their Advent Plus update came out 4 months after the game launch. For us, it is so far only 3 months. So it's very likely that this will be coming out 1 month from now, unless they're really kind and they decide to hold it off for quite a bit. Okay, but yeah, level 56 will be coming very soon, even sooner than the divinity and potential actually. So just keep in mind, and with that we also get proficiency expansions whereby your hero proficiency can increase from level 6 to 10. Just a heads up, there will also be a new item called proficiency potions that can be used in future to increase the proficiency of your hero, so that is going to help a lot if it does happen. Okay. And then for formation, we are also going to get level 11 and 12 formation. For level 11, you will need 600 of each book, and for level 12 upgrade, you will need 800 of each book, making your total number needed to be 1,400 of each book if you want to max out that particular formation. So if I were you, I may want to start hoarding on to your books. Instead of going for many level 10 formations right now, I think it is more ideal for you to keep a balance on hand, and when this update does hit, you will be able to upgrade your most used formations immediately, such as your Swift, your Crit, your Tactical, if you use that in PvP, your Bombardments. Okay, all these formations are very useful and very important, so I would strongly suggest keeping some books right now. And finally, we have the Labyrinth recap. So again, as I stressed, Labyrinth is a PvP inspired PvE content, and it gives you a lot of good rewards, okay, like moonstones, mainly 500 moonstones a week if you clear every floor, rubies, tickets, and more good stuff. So I've expanded on the best heroes for Labyrinth because it is PvP inspired. PvP heroes definitely shine in Labyrinth, and all these heroes right now that we have are very good for Labyrinth and still remain good for many months to come. So no hero is left behind at all in this game. But just one more thing to mention, that there is actually a Labyrinth pet that will be available in the shop, and it costs 150,000 arena tokens, which means you have to start saving now and not use your arena tokens for any other reason, because this legendary pet could potentially help you have an easier time in the Labyrinth, which allows you to get more rewards much more efficiently. And finally, in the next few videos, I'll be working on talking about the new formations that are coming. There's about 10 new formations that we do not have yet, and there'll also be new L+ accessories that you will want to keep an eye for, and there will also be accessory revamps. So I will talk about all these in upcoming videos. Please stay tuned for it, and if you did find this video helpful, do give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Big shout out to my channel members Christopher, Tom, Gonzalo, Jeremy, Fahas, Bilal, Yamaki, Reggie and Sai for their support. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!